When the sky is clear, look around. You will see 4 stars surrounding another 3 stars. This is called Orion constellation. Please ignore this useless group of stars. Look at this side. Sorry, the other side. You will see another 4 stars. And another 3 stars forming a tail. This is called Big Dipper. If you draw a line through the first 2 stars, you will reach another bright star at the tail of Small Dipper. This star is called Polaris. Polaris is very important because if you come back after a couple hours, you will notice that all the stars in the sky have changed their position except Polaris. Now, come back another few hours. You will see all the stars moved around the sky while Polaris still holds its position. In fact, if you do not change your place on Earth, Polaris will not change its position. It stays there in the sky even during the day. That is because Polaris is right above the North Pole. If you are near the North Pole, then Polaris appears high in the sky. If you move down, Polaris moves down too. If you move beyond the equator, then Polaris disappears from the horizon. Polaris was very important for sailors in the past. They used its position in the sky to know where they were on Earth. From our point of view, all the stars in the sky move together around Polaris. None of them change their position in relation to each other. Except 8 stars. 5 of them are visible by eye. These 8 stars called planets. Planets change their relative position against the stars in the distant background. During the ancient times, people thought the Earth was at the center of the universe. All the stars in the background orbit around Earth together. The planets also orbit around the Earth, but in separate orbits from the background stars. This model of the universe was accepted by everyone since the Babylons all the way to the ancient Greeks. No one complained about it. They were all happy with it. They all said we are at the center of the universe. We are the kings and everything revolves around us. Until around 500 years ago when this guy came. His name was Copernicus. He examined at the sky carefully, and he realized that the planets are moving through the sky in a spiral way. He thought the planets must be moving around the sun. He went to the authorities to tell them what he was thinking. The authorities told him, "Why are you out of your mind?" He said, "The planets are moving in a spiral way." The authorities said, "Well, you fool, the planets are just flipping around us because they respect us and because we are at the center of the universe." They made fun of poor Copernicus and laughed at him. Then Galileo came. Galileo had a big telescope and he was obsessed with the sky. He was particularly obsessed with Jupiter. Jupiter is a bright planet in the sky. He wondered why when he looks at the moon with his telescope, the moon seems larger by 10 times, but why Jupiter does not seem any larger. He thought Jupiter must be very far away. It must be as big as our Earth or even bigger. Galileo drew Jupiter and the 4 smaller stars nearby it. With close inspection, he noticed the 4 smaller stars are orbiting around Jupiter. For him that was a big evidence to support the notion that not everything is orbiting Earth. He remembered that our moon orbits Earth. So he thought these small stars must be the moons of Jupiter. Then he remembered Copernicus's statement that Jupiter and the other planets orbit around the sun, not the Earth. So Galileo thought our Earth must be moving around the sun too. If that is true, then this model is incorrect. The sun is at the center of the universe. Galileo realized that Earth's movement around the sun could explain the apparent helical movements of the planets in the sky. He thought these spiral rounds are due to the Earth circling around the sun. Galileo went to discuss what he has found with the authorities. He said the Earth is moving around the sun. The authorities replied, "You fool. If the earth moves around the sun, then the front door of our houses will become the back doors by the end of the earth's round. They made fun of poor Galileo and they laughed at him. Galileo spent the rest of his life writing about the relative movement, explaining to the commons why we do not feel the earth's movements. Then Newton came. Newton had a big brain. He was convinced that Galileo was right. The sun is at the center of our universe and all the planets, including the Earth, are orbiting around it. Because Newton was clever at physics, he knew that if something moves around another thing you need a rope to keep the moving object in its orbit. So he thought if all the planets are revolving around the sun, there should be a rope, or something similar, to hold all the planets in their orbits. Newton had a telescope just like Galileo. He was looking at the sky a lot. He was determined to find the invisible ropes that keep all planets in their orbits around the sun. One day an apple fell in front of Newton. He remembered that Earth's gravity is pulling everything down. Then he asked, why Earth's gravity is not pulling the moon down too? Then he realized the rope that holds the moon in its orbit must be the same force that pulled the apple down. Then Newton used his ability in physics to conclude that if you throw an object in the sky, then the object falls on Earth because gravity pulls it down. But if the same object thrown very forcefully, then it might not fall until it reaches the other side of the Earth and then it continues to revolve around the Earth forever. In this case, the Earth's gravity only serves to keep the object in its orbit. So now, Newton has discovered that gravity is the force that holds everything together. The invisible rope problem was solved. But Newton was not satisfied. He put a lot of unnecessary equations in physics and math books to complicate the obvious fact for poor students. One final problem remained unsolved. The problem was related to the distant stars in the sky background. If they are not orbiting around the sun, then gravity should pull them together and they should crush with each other. Newton thought the distant stars in the sky must be very far away from the sun and from each other so their gravity do not have a big effect on each other. At that time, scientists convinced that each star in the sky is probably a solar system on its own in this universe. But our sun is at the center of the universe. If you say why? Their answer is, because we are the kings in the universe. Everything else is made for us. One final unsolved puzzle was this bright disc-shaped cloud in the sky. This cloud is not like any other cloud. The clearer the sky, the brighter it looks. People called it the Milky Way. Scientists neglected this cloud for very long until very late. Once big telescopes invented. One scientist looked at a small portion. And what he found was shocking. He realized the cloud is full of stars. Scientists thought they should not ignore this cloud anymore. If it's full of stars, then it means our universe is much bigger than they thought previously. So one scientist thought this bright disk cloud is a huge container of stars, but it looks so compressed because it is very far away, even further than the stars in our sky background. So the width of this disk must be as big as the width of our visible sky. Maybe the stars in our sky are also part of this disk-shaped cloud, but they look more spread apart because they are closer to us. Maybe the Milky Way is our entire universe. We and every star in our sky are only within this small circle. But that means we are at the edge of this disk-shaped cloud. And this means that we are not in the center of the universe. The humans said, okay, at least we are the most unique form of life. Then Darwin came and said, nope. You are wrong. Humans are just an overthinking ape. Then humans said, what is happening? Are we not special anymore? Are we not at the center of everything? After this major blow to our high status, a wise movement was to destroy all the telescopes and to prevent humans from using their brains ever again. But this silly man didn't give up. He said, I just want to have a final look at one star. And that star called Andromeda. If you look at Andromeda with a telescope, it looks like a small disc-shaped cloud. This guy said to Hubble, he thinks this small cloud is another universe full of stars just like our Milky Way. He said, this small cloud may be another galaxy. But it looks like that because it is very far away and it is outside our galaxy. Hubble said, are you serious? The silly guy replied, no, I was just joking. Hubble wanted to investigate this claim further. So when they built a larger telescope, Hubble looked through it and he found the sky was full of galaxies. Hubble used physics to estimate the movement of these galaxies relative to our galaxy. He found that all the distant galaxies are moving away from us. At that moment, he got a very thrilling idea. He said that is because our galaxy is at the center of the universe. Nothing can explain this except that we are at the center of the universe. We are amazing again. Then Einstein came and said, don't hold your hopes high. If our galaxy is a dot on an expanding balloon, as the balloon expands, every dot on its surface sees the other dots moving away from it. So every dot thinks it is at the center, but that is not true. He also wrote some equations to prove that and to upset us even more. In the end, thanks to these people, we now know that we are not the kings at the center of the universe and nothing is revolving around. Instead, we are just an invisible tiny dust in a huge galaxy, which by itself is a tiny dust in a huge universe. And that was the result of using our brains. Silly humans, you destroyed your high status with your own hands.
Where are we going? From here, where do we go? Are we all blinded by fear? How do we know? How do we know? Where do we go? Where do